Hi, friend. Thank you so much for joining me for Carpe Diem with Jasmine, a conversation series. Today's episode is the first episode in a two-part conversation series focused on health myths around dairy. We're getting to the bottom of all these health dairy myths, and we're discussing lactose intolerance, inflammation, high blood pressure, and cardiovascular disease in this two-part series. Today, we're focusing on lactose intolerance and inflammation. And I'm thrilled that today's conversation is brought to you by Midwest Dairy. Midwest Dairy represents over 5,800 dairy farm families from across 10 states. And farmers are near and dear to my heart. So I'm super excited today because I am going to be chatting with my own personal doctor, Dr. Harriet Enubuzor. I affectionately call her Dr. Harriet from Alina Medical. Dr. Harriet has practiced medicine for 31 years, and she's a wife, a mother, a grandmother of four. I can't believe it. Dr. Harriet, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Jasmine. Thanks
Hi.
for that introduction.
Yeah, it's kind of fun seeing you this way as
I
opposed to like in
know,
the
I
rows on the
know.
other side of the screen.
It's
So
awesome.
I
I'm so
appreciate
happy.
I appreciate you coming into my professional life with me.
Yes, it is my pleasure.
Okay, so let's just dive in. There are so many myths around dairy. So for the record, what does it mean to be lactose intolerant?
Well, lactose intolerance just means that the person cannot digest the lactose in milk very well. It's not a problem that is bad for your health or anything, but it can give you some symptoms that could be uncomfortable, like bloating, flatulence, which is, passing gas.
I
And
know
then,
that symptom because I've been around people that suffer from that.
and diarrhea too. So because of that, a lot of people may want to avoid dairy, but they're missing out on a lot if they avoid the dairy. But
So
I
what
usually tell my patients if they start having any symptoms that may be similar to this, it could be something else. And usually we do try and check it out, make sure it's not something that would be dangerous, because lactose intolerance itself is not a problem. It's
right. So
just you just have to deal with it by making some changes in your diet.
I got it. So what's the difference between being lactose tolerant and perhaps having like an allergen or a milk allergen?
Well, most people do not have any allergy to milk. That's very,
Mhm.
very rare.
Oh, that's a
Lactose,
big myth.
yes, that's very, very rare. I think when people have a little bloating or um, diarrhea, they may call it an allergy, but it's not really an allergy. It's probably you don't have enough of the lactase in your small intestines.
So how can you overcome that, and what can you do so that you can still um, partake in the the yumminess? I'm just going to be honest, the yumminess that is dairy. But we also know that dairy is extremely important to our bodies because it provides us with so many great nutrients that we need, not only to keep our bones healthy and strong, but nutrients that we need to make sure that our inside organs are running the proper way.
Yes, milk is a very nutritious whole food. So you don't want to not be able to drink milk. And people who have lactose intolerance can still drink milk. You could drink up to a cup of milk, even if you're lactose intolerant. And there are ways to be able to tolerate it. You can drink it with food. You could also try things such as yogurt. You may digest that better. Hard cheeses, or even lactose-free milk. So
Okay,
some of those ways.
I know you're not a dietitian, but for
Uh-huh.
those that might need a little clarification, what's an example of a hard cheese?
That's like Parmesan cheese. That's a hard cheese, and that's usually pretty well digested.
And cheddar, my understanding that a hard cheese is any cheese that has been aged. So if you see aged
That
for
is
a particular
correct.
amount
That
of
is
time,
correct.
that's a hard cheese, right? Are we on the
Mhm.
same
Yes,
wavelength?
yes. So like hard cheddar should be a good cheese also.
Right. So are people of color, and specifically Black people, predisposed for being lactose intolerant?
Yes, Black folks are predisposed to being lactose intolerant. However, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't have milk. I do recommend that my patients have at least 3 servings of dairy a day. And
Okay, so I want to put a pause in that. So we could have milk, but you really recommend that we have 3 servings of dairy a day. So that's three. And
yes,
dairy could come from, drinking a glass of milk. It could be cheese. It could be cottage cheese. It could even be yogurt.
that's correct. That's correct.
Okay. And so why do you recommend that?
I recommend that because there's so many excellent nutrients in milk. You know, it's a complete food. It's a whole food. So you get protein, you get vitamin D, you get calcium. It's good for your bones, and it gives you energy. So,
And
so
so
I
you get
really,
all these yummy nutrients that we need
hmm
to thrive on the inside, not only from drinking milk, but from all dairy.
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I.
So let's go to the next question. True
mhm.
or false, dairy causes inflammation?
That's false. Dairy does not cause inflammation. But I think if we overdo anything, it sometimes can cause some symptoms for us. So maybe if you overdrink or overeat dairy, you may feel that maybe you're getting a little bit of congestion or something like that. But it doesn't mean that it's inflammation in your body. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't have dairy.
Mhm.
Uh, it just means you probably have to eat it differently. Maybe have your milk with a meal rather than by itself. Have a yogurt rather than milk if that gives you a little trouble. And like I said before, the hard cheeses. But uh, causing inflammation, no, that's a myth for sure.
Okay, that is good to know. So finally, when you talk about, moderation, which you told me a lot of, what does
Mhm.
it really mean to practice that eating well lifestyle that will keep you healthy and strong, or keep us healthy and strong?
Yeah. If you follow the my plate
Mhm.
.gov recommendations where you have fruits, vegetables, lean meats, milk, and grains, then you definitely would be practicing good health. Basically, you want to make sure you're having whole foods. I
Okay.
usually recommend for my patients avoiding processed foods. So
Yes, I've
try to,
heard that from you before.
yes, try and avoid that as much as you can. Whole foods, milk, cheese, yogurt, whole grain, lean meats, legumes, nuts, good oils, all of that,
Okay.
you know, and
So
that's,
what I'm hearing you say is to make sure that we're eating whole foods, real foods, not processed foods, that we
mhm,
practice all things in moderation, all good things in moderation, and
mhm.
more importantly, that we are consistently having our 3 servings of dairy daily, making sure that we're eating our vegetables, lean proteins, and the recommended amount of whole grains.
Yes.
Okay,
You-
okay. This
you-
is this is good.
Yes,
And that if
perfect.
you and I think the most important thing too is if you think you are um allergic to dairy, you're probably not allergic to dairy. You probably need to go to your doctor and have
Yes.
some tests done. You need to see a wonderful doctor like Dr. Harriet, right?
Yes, yes, yes. If you're getting upset or anything like that, it may not be the dairy. It may be something else, and you should definitely go to your doctor and have it checked out.
Okay, Dr. Harriet, thank you so much for joining me today. On part two of our conversation, we're going to talk about something that's really near and dear to my heart, no pun intended, cardiovascular disease and high blood pressure, or as what some people refer to as hypertension. So I can't wait to have you back. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Jasmine.
And thank you for listening. Carpe Diem.